In 2015, within months of a key CPC Central Committee meeting, the government launched its final push to completely eradicate poverty. This coincided with the launch of the 13th five-year plan for national economic development. At the time, almost 56 million rural poor were in desperate need of help. In the course of the next 5 years, China achieved its goal of lifting every poor person out of poverty. It did so through 5 approaches: the development of industry, relocation, eco-compensation, the promotion of education, and social security protection. Back in 2015, 10 million of China's rural poor were living in places that were virtually uninhabitable. Relocation appeared to be the only way of helping them. But relocating within 5 years 10 million people scattered across the country was an undertaking of unprecedented complexity. In China's effort to eliminate poverty, it was given top priority. Shawa is typical of the poor villages in Nunjiang Prefecture. It's almost entirely isolated. Shawa's only link with the outside world is a 3-kilometer-long mountain path. When Po Luo wanted to have his refrigerator repaired, he had to walk for over 4 hours, carrying it on his back. The poverty-stricken communities listed for relocation were scattered across 22 provinces and regions, mostly isolated and located deep among mountains. These places were considered virtually uninhabitable due to factors such as their backward living conditions, frequent natural disasters, and fragile eco-environment. Shawa, despite its enviable views, has only small patches of hilly land that can be farmed. Development here is impossible. Every year before the onset of the rainy season, Xiao has to repair the house. The family have lived here for generations. Xiao is in his 40s and still single. It's not because he doesn't work hard that he hasn't been able to find a wife. It's because what little he earns, he spends on his younger siblings' education and caring for his elderly parents. Xiao's 66-year-old mother is ill. The nearest hospital is over 20 kilometers away. First, he needs to find a way of getting the patient down the mountain. The village rallies round to help. They take it in turns to carry the old lady down the mountain. The journey is too difficult for Xiao's father to attempt. Life here has always been hard. When the government offered the villagers saplings for restoring the forest, it took them a whole day just to fetch them. By 2015, relocation had lifted 6.8 million people across China out of poverty. But that still left almost 10 million needing to be helped in the same way. Starting in 2016, when China launched its 13th five-year plan, a mass relocation effort on an unprecedented scale began. Entire communities scattered across 22 provinces and regions would be moved. Nearly 10 million people in all, equivalent to the population of a medium-sized country. Duan Li Hua has visited Shawa more than 40 times to prepare the villagers for their relocation.
政府现在就等于是个大厨师，可是？我们这菜式给你摆了7、8盘了，你随时都可以点菜，我们可以干，可是？就差公路如果不在菜谱里面，你就先点他几盘菜嘛，可是？
哎呀，可是啥？公路是条这么公路那床这么提了，这个哎呀，臭忙活了呗，哎呦老。
哎，张书记，纠正你一个观点，现在对于沙瓦，7、8盘菜有1盘菜必须是卤。
Duan Li Hua has worked till midnight, but he's not made any progress in persuading the villagers.
搬迁顾虑特别多，因为他只会种地嘛。你突然搬迁了，那我做啥呢？
Nobody wants to live in poverty. But moving from somewhere you've lived for many years is never easy. 80% of these people belong to minority ethnic groups, including the Lisu and Nu, as well as much smaller ones such as the Pumi and Dulong. Their traditions dictate that they should never leave the place where their ancestors lived.
这个我希望到时候就是我们一起来商量，大家商量通了。
Li Tao is in charge of poverty alleviation work in Fugong.
我们沙瓦发展的过程当中，你觉得碰到了一些什么问题？
我们种下了那么多年草果啊，那么多年海涛啊，那么多起诉啊，全部丢下去。
他担心搬下来以后那块地就不是他的地了，他的房子的周围还有很多他的土地、林地，他担心不是他的了。
退耕还林这个高感植物的问题，一定给你一个答复。
那么我们要告诉他，这个是国家答应你们的啊，我们的扶贫政策不变，土地还是你们的土地，林子还是你们的林子，医疗、教育，还有这个各种社会保障，你人全部撒在大山上，实际上是不可能的。所以国家的政策是希望你尽量的搬下来。
我们工作组织认为，脱贫攻坚不能等。
Convincing the villagers to move is one of many challenges facing the poverty alleviation workers. 100,000 people are to be moved to a settlement in Nujiang Canyon, and to accommodate them, 2.5 million square meters of housing will have to be built. In 2018, the plans for relocation reached a critical juncture. The poverty alleviation officials found themselves juggling multiple vital tasks, from choosing resettlement locations to raising funds and overseeing the building work. But still, the biggest challenge was convincing people to move.
大家看起现在是烂泥潭，是吧？下一步的话是整个小区的话是全部都是普及水泥路，楼道下面就是。
The resettlement site for Shawa village is close to completion. Party official Duan Li Hua is showing the villagers around their new home.
来，那个，经常把帽子发给大家哈，注意安全。这个就是主卧，这里是大门，嘎，进来主卧里面自带个卫生间，跟车里面都一样，是吧？啊，这个卫生间呢是很大的，我感觉是百闻不如一见，看一看这房子真的不错。
Although it's hard to leave your hometown, the desire for a new life is obvious on everybody's face. 60 families live in Shawa. More than 50 have now agreed to move. On the day of the move, Li Xiao'er has prepared a special dinner. This is their first meal in their new home. Tens of thousands of government officials are involved in helping villagers to relocate. 1,000 of them are going from village to village, household to household, patiently explaining the relocation plans. It's a complex undertaking. Even though each village to be relocated has its unique circumstances, there is usually a compelling reason to move, such as problems with transport or the water supply. In Gulong County, key to the success of the relocation is finding somewhere with a good water supply.
今年是丢水时间最长的日子。走，我们看看那水站。
Yu Jianchun is the head of the local water resources office. His major concern is supplying water to Huanghuatan, the new settlement to where more than 60,000 people will move.
我是鼓浪人，土生土长的鼓浪人。我的父亲先辈们是农民，我知道水太重要了。没有水，你就按我们老百姓的话说，你种不上东西，吃不上东西。
多休息，多淋些日头啊，保证日光温室的没水了。潮湿些心里踏实嘛。
Yu Jianchun has good cause to worry after what happened in 2017. Back then, Gulong was tasked with helping its extremely poor population move out of its most uninhabitable areas. Of more than 140,000 impoverished people, half were living on the highlands where the climate could be bitterly cold. There was plenty of arable land, but no irrigation.
那时候我们分日活要分这什么的，但是不长庄稼。遇上这个日费好一点的时候，还可以这个维持生活，但是日费是不好就无法维持了。
The whole of Gansu province is generally dry, but the scarcity of water is particularly severe in Gulong. The southern mountains used to have water, but a century of overexploitation had left the area exhausted and severely damaged. A place that had once been relatively rich in vegetation was left barren. For the 60,000 people living there, the only solution was to move away. Sun Dehu, who is in his 60s, had tried to move out before in the 1990s. The government gave his family of 6 around a hectare to farm, but without good irrigation, it was extremely difficult to make things grow.
那实在是沙土的事，沙土的收费相当费，是大管，就是水管子就种出的了，给出头了的管的了，选酒选生，费相当费。
那水用不起啊。
用不起。
Sun Dehu had no choice other than to return to his old home in the mountains. With the launch of the poverty alleviation campaign, more than 60,000 people in the area expressed an interest in being relocated. But in moving so many people, the first problem was finding somewhere for them to settle. Gulong County was facing the same difficulty as every other place deemed uninhabitable across China. How to meet the needs of a vast population from scarce resources. Huanghuatan, on the southern edge of the Tunggur Desert, was eventually chosen as the place to resettle those moving away from Gulong. A settlement for more than 60,000 people needs at least 13,000 hectares of land. Water is also essential, and it was reasoned that Huanghuatan would be able to provide sufficient for drinking and irrigation if appropriate steps were taken.
我们打算从黄河调水的时候，是为什么我们有这个基础？我们的这个金黄灌区啊，它一期调到这个金台县，2期就调到我们这个鼓浪县，上游渠道还有泵站，我们再延伸到我们黄花滩，这不是更好吗？但是这个里面困难特别大，主要是我们没有水权。虽然黄河水那么大， 我们有我们的日发水是属于我们的。
Huanghuaton, as a new settlement, had no right to divert water from the Yellow River, so the county government decided to launch 2 initiatives simultaneously, to apply for water use rights for Huanghuaton and to limit water usage upstream in Gulong County.
每日亩土的节约日年节约日边方水，30万亩土的节约3000万方水，到时通过上游古朗管区的节水来解决黄花滩人民区的雨水问题。
In 2015, a series of small reservoirs were dug from the pumping station in Gulong County on the Yellow River to various points in Huanghuaton. This created an irrigation system extending for more than 160 kilometers, serving the settlement's arable land. With the water problem solved, the relocation of the first settlers could go ahead. They started a new life in Huanghuaton, building greenhouses to grow food and raising livestock. Sun Du-hu and his neighbors weren't among the first group of settlers, but he wasn't worried. He trusted that the authorities would eventually resettle him and his family.
我上下考察了几次了，从这个开始搬迁之后，我就瞅着了哪一个人民点好一点。
In 2016, there were still more than 20,000 poverty-stricken people living in the mountains of Gulong County. The local government decided it was time to take decisive action. Water was the key to a successful relocation to Huanghuaton. Even though being granted access to the Yellow River's water would take time, it wasn't right to make such poor people wait any longer. The savings being made upstream meant the settlers would have enough water to start a new life, as long as they cherished every drop. However, the greenhouses were still using more water than was sustainable.
天天看着顶着那个水面就簌闪着，平时感觉不到。
大家紧张到什么程度？
紧张到我们想各种办法，想各种办法。那个时候没水的话，这个工程是失败的。
20,000 needy people were waiting to be relocated. It was a worrying time for all the agencies responsible. Water was vital to the livelihood of Huanghuaton's tens of thousands of settlers. The provincial, city, and county governments worked together to speed up the water use rights application process.
水经过这个渠道进到池子那一刻，我们都跳起来了。
这两天的黄河水过来的，那也清洁了。
深圳雨。终于到第2年3月10号上水的时候，把那个冻过去了，长出了一口气。
我们政策是我们最大的信心，自身白提过程中，群众给我们力量。
In 2018, Sun Du-hu's dream came true, and he moved to Huanghuaton. With support from the local government, he and his son contracted 2 greenhouses.
原来种的大山坡地哪有这见没见过？现在才开始学着捣农民了。
In 2019, Gulong completed the relocation of its entire poor population. A total of 62,400 people were resettled to Huanghuaton. Finally, they were granted the right to use water from the Yellow River. Lack of water was no longer the bane of their existence, and Gulong was no longer listed as poverty-stricken. Relocation was officially listed as one of the 5 approaches to eliminating poverty. President Xi had emphasized during visits to some of the poorest places in China the need to guarantee the smooth relocation and resettlement of residents and ensure those involved had the means to better themselves. He had initially started his experiment to encourage villagers struggling in poverty in uninhabitable areas to move somewhere better over 2 decades ago. Later, he launched the Fujian Ningxia Partnership, based on the principle of a developed province empowering an underdeveloped region to shake off poverty. To move away is the first step, but not an easy one for those living in inaccessible pockets of mountains, canyons, and deserts. The way out is an intimidating journey on which they need support from all sides. Medog in Tibetan means secret lotus. The biggest obstacle for Medog in fighting poverty has always been its poor transport infrastructure. When the school closes for the summer and winter vacations, the grassroots officials have an important responsibility to escort the children to their homes in remote villages. This time, the task is falling on Xie Guogao and his colleagues from an aid team sent from Foshan in Guangdong province. But Xie Guogao must also visit Doka village, the farthest community from the city. The Jiaomo Highway is the only road from the city to Doka. It's 117 kilometers in length and lies at an elevation of 4,200 meters at its highest point and 800 meters at its lowest. From Jarasa Township, they face a 40-kilometer journey on foot across the mountains to Doka.
前面就是加沙乡的内列村，这个汉布拉峡口13拐，将近10公里，这是最考验人的。
看清楚了以后，赶紧过去。哇！
没事，过来。哦，来了个大的，嗯，一个大的。快，过来。快。
The rocks pouring down the mountain aren't the worst part of it.
不能再待了，这里不能待了。
Baorong Cliff Trail at its narrowest is just 30 centimeters wide. 200 meters below is the Yarlung Sangpo River.
同学们小心点啊，别太靠边了。
Xie Guogao has been traveling these dangerous roads on foot since 2016. He has visited all 46 poverty-stricken villages scattered across Medog County. The period when he and his colleagues have been stationed in Tibet has coincided with the most critical stage in the effort to alleviate poverty in the area. The biggest challenge has been to help the most isolated communities, where there is no road in or out. In 2017, Doka was listed for relocation. The investment needed to move its inhabitants and those of 2 other villages would be 110 million yuan. The local government was short of 30 million yuan. Xie Guogao turned to his home city for help, and Foshan agreed immediately. All the villages on the to-be-relocated list under the Poverty Alleviation Plan have received assistance from economically better-off parts of China, whether a city or a province. Just before noon, the team arrived in Doka village. There are 31 households, a total of 143 people living in this village. They grow crops using the most primitive methods and have barely enough to eat. If anybody falls ill, the nearest clinic is 19 hours away.
那你们想不想搬到那个葛当区呢？
我认为决定，但是不一定是买让那个。
那是犹豫的原因是什么？
Doka is to be relocated as a whole, and Xie Guogao's job is to help the villagers understand what will happen.
但将来差脚啊，那跳轻度啊，先把给跳出来。
他有一些人那个长期。
Having made the difficult journey to Doka, Xie Guogao tries his best to explain to the villagers. It's very hard to persuade them to move to a strange place, and time after time, people have refused. Finally, though, Kama Funtong and his family agree. Kama Funsong moved to the village 10 years ago, bringing with him a cast iron stove weighing over 50 kilos. The young people who are ready to move are looking forward to a new life beyond the mountains. Dolungong settlement, just 10 kilometers away, is ready to welcome them. It's March, and the relocation must be completed before the rainy season. If the roads are damaged, the move will be dangerous, even impossible. Xie Guogao has to visit Doka again. He faces a race against the rains to lead everybody safely out of the mountains. The rains come earlier than usual. There's been a landslide, and Barong Cliff Trail is impassable. The relocation is now under threat. The first day, the rain becomes heavier. The second day, it's heavy. The third day, it eases.
像那个雪花雨一样。
上面那个山一直在塌嘛。是没办法，那个上面的石头。
The fourth day, the sun is shining. To ensure that the relocation can go ahead, the government is already repairing Barong Cliff Trail. With the road fixed, Xie Guogao and his colleagues hurry to Doka. It's relocation day for Doka village. 20 out of 31 households have agreed to move.
I 估计要背4个小时多一点吧，然后就能到加拉萨了。
Although the road has been cleared, continuing landslides make it dangerous. They've decided to wait. Whenever it's safe to move, they clear the road and send someone on. After 4 hours of intense work aided by the officials and road workers, all 20 families have got through safely.
一路平安，干嘛没错？啊，就去这里啊。
祝福你们那个安居乐业啊！好。
欢迎来到多龙港啊！
刚满平处从外面回来的时候，你就可以靠在这里看着你老公回来，给他一个温馨的微笑，是吧？
Before long, the remaining 11 households in Dolka village also moved to the new settlement. A relocation is a journey to a new life. The road may be difficult, but it's paved with hopes and dreams. At the same time as Dolka in Tibet is saying goodbye to poverty, another village in the heart of the Taklamakan Desert, thousands of miles away, is preparing to be relocated.
这是我们大俩不一的大事儿，就搬迁的。
Kurbahan Matroza is Daryaboyi Township's first college student. She has also traveled farther than anyone else in the town. Daryaboyi, in the heart of the desert, is more than 240 kilometers away from Yutian County. It's one of the most inaccessible villages in China. In the 1950s, this place was unknown to outsiders. Life for the local nomads was unimaginably harsh and lonely.
原来这个农农民饮水都是挖个坑，舀上那个水都是绿色的。后面我们又打给那政府过来，我们有个打井，但是打完井以后一化验，它含氟，它含对人的损害的物质太多，矿物质太多，这饮水根本就没办法弄。这个地方咱们说心里话，它是不适合于人类居住的。
During 15 years as a local official, Jia Tsumpong came to understand how difficult and lonely life in the desert is. With no access to Wi-Fi or a telephone network, he and his colleagues depended on their motorcycles and loudspeakers to get anything done. In October 2018, the first group of 102 families listed as poverty-stricken moved into the new settlement. In September 2019, the Yutian County government decided that the whole of Daryoboyi Township should be relocated. The second group on the list is now ready to move. With departure set for tomorrow, the village garage is very busy. People are waiting eagerly. Soon, the bitter water, the adobe houses, and the lonely desert life will be history. The night before the move, people are too excited to sleep. Today, Daryoboyi Township is moving. A new life is beckoning, and people are very excited.
Yani biraz saatten keyin yayın bachanda qarab maqtimiz hammamiz bek xushal hozir.
Öyle layıktı cevap. Aşağıda oturacağımız aşağıda bakın. İstanbul'da.
Adam bir tuluk hep oldu mu? Hemse bizim var yeni turumuzga varmız. Varmız.
大家没有掏1分钱的，他们特别感恩党的好政策。
Hozir men kuchab chiqqandan keyin bir kunlik ish qizim hozir qo'shimda bo'ldi.
在沙漠生存，如果没有党的异地搬迁政策， 我们怎么走出沙漠？有了异地搬迁，我们的梦实现了，我们的脱贫可以和全国同步如期脱贫。
After 7 hours, the convoy arrives at their new home, the town of Daryaboyi.
忙了啊！日月干！出来了，终于出来了啊！出来好啊！搬出来了。
这牵挂着他也我1个多月没见了。
The poverty alleviation team in the town has prepared a welcome dinner for the new arrivals. It's the taste of home. As soon as she sets eyes on her new home, Kurbahan Matroza calls her brother, who's working in another province, so he can see what it looks like. The water tastes sweet, the family is reunited, and they have a modern home. It's everything they've been hoping for. The settlement, 90 kilometers away from Yutian town, has clean water, a stable power supply, good roads, and a regular shuttle bus service to the county. People have been brought closer together, unlike the old days in the desert. Each courtyard has 4 houses, each for a different family, as well as a guest house in case they want to make money from tourism. Finally, these desert nomads are able to enjoy a modern lifestyle.
Partiya hükümet bizga mo'yillar g'amxo'rlik qilib muhimda qilgan bo'lsa biz qas uylarda o'tirdik tutib tutulan yomg'ir yog'sa o'lchilak.
People are confident that if they work hard, they can create a happy new life for themselves. Relocation is their route out of poverty and the start of a journey to prosperity. Countless people who once lived among mountains, on remote plateaus, in deserts, on cliffs or barren land, are benefiting from the relocation policy. Their mindset is also undergoing a transformation. They are growing confident that they have the ability to build a prosperous life for themselves. For those who have been living in extreme poverty, this mental transformation is the key to their future success. Wawu Village's relocation is just a few months away. Xiejie, a poverty alleviation official from the Sichuan Forestry Commission, is providing job training for the villagers. Xiejie understands how important it is to equip people with skills so they can find a job after they move. However, the villagers seem to have little interest in the training and gradually leave. Xiejie feels embarrassed. The pursuit of happiness should be a basic instinct for every human being. However, after living in poverty and battling nature in vain for generations, people tend to feel inadequate. With Relocation Day approaching, Xie Jie senses the urgency of preparing people mentally.
这儿条件不好，你们来到这儿，感谢你们喽。
没事没事，主要大家身体好。现在说我们这个条件艰苦哈，要是今年我们异地搬迁，我们就住到貂角县里去了，奶奶。有新房子了，漂亮的房子，干干净净的，是吧？
Wawu, in the dialect of the Yi people, means surrounded by cliffs. More than 700 people are living in Wawu, scattered across cliffs that reach high up into the clouds. In 2018, average per capita income was less than 1,000 yuan a year. This is the only path connecting Wawu with the outside world. It's so dangerous that the villagers try to avoid using it. However, the poverty alleviation workers are frequent travelers along this route. It's not easy opening up mines that have been closed for so long. Whenever Xie Jie visits the village, he brings a film with him. Today, it's a documentary about China's economic development. He's not sure whether the villagers will enjoy it, but he hopes it will spark their desire to establish contact with the outside world. The primary task for the poverty alleviation officials is to eliminate the root cause of poverty associated with people's mindset. The villagers need to be inspired with a vision of prosperity and motivated to believe that they have the ability to build a happy life for themselves. With each passing day, Xie Jie appreciates more deeply the importance of intellectual empowerment and spiritual uplifting in poverty alleviation work. In November 2019, the 81 families in Wawu village were relocated to the Jiaodingshan settlement, 10 kilometers outside Jiaozhou town. Their new homes have everything they need, from bedding to electric appliances. But this doesn't mean the poverty alleviation worker's job is done.
你觉得这样的处罚过，那为啥结果为啥个这个孩子们的这些看不见都是错的？
看嘛，没得吃那个，随时就把洗了嘛，是不是？还有个这个为什么？就腊肠这不能放久的话，有些变质，吃了拉肚子哦，哈。
They have to be taught even the small things that others take for granted.
当然首页哦，电视节目其实这个很好，今儿这个不是一个话筒吗？中央一台，对着说就行了，就是这个快捷键，哈，哦，你说一次嘛，你说普通话就可以了 ，OK 了。
他是也是，
It's not easy getting used to so many changes. However, it's a crucial readjustment process the villagers must go through. A visit to the Fujiao Modern Agriculture Garden is an eye-opening experience.
我们大家虚心的向老师学习啊，有不懂的大家可以提问啊。
这个现代原来就跟你传统的做农业种地是两个概念了，是不？你们看到这些管道上这些瓜瓜都是真实的哦，不是假的哦，管道里头种出来的。不要往前走啊！
萝卜。
哎，
好看好看。
这真的啊，都像是一些艺术品了，都不像菜了。
那个我说，大家来看这儿有水培植物。芹菜小儿可以，是不是？有那个炒菜，芹菜肉是啊，是噻。
The tour makes a big impression on the villagers. Relocation is just the start of a readjustment process through which they'll be empowered to truly escape poverty. With the support of the local government and the help of the poverty alleviation officials, they are beginning to think differently and to live differently. Finding a job is an important step on the way to a new life. Starting a small business is an important step on the way to success. Xiang Ejie and his wife are already making good money. The husband runs a logistics business, and the wife sells Yi-style embroidery. Schools are no longer far away and inaccessible for the children. Lo Yingsheng is now in the 4th grade at Jiaozhou County Elementary School. A young woman is getting married. It's the first village wedding since they moved to the new community. In the old days, it was very difficult for girls in Wawu to find a match because of its isolation. By the end of June 2020, Liangshan Prefecture had completed the relocation of 353,200 people. It had successfully met its target and resettled every villager living in extreme poverty. By December 2020, more than 9.6 million people registered as impoverished across China had been relocated. They had been resettled in 35,000 new communities, where more than 2,600,000 apartments had been specially built for them. 6,000 schools and kindergartens had been built or expanded for their children's education, and 12,000 hospitals and community clinics established for their health care. By moving people out of uninhabitable environments, the spread of poverty from one generation to the next has been effectively halted. But the relocation aims not only at changing the living conditions for poor communities, it also provides them with an opportunity to better themselves. It is bringing about a profound mental transformation in people. The endeavor is supported by the sacrifice of tens of millions of poverty alleviation workers, and by the courage and faith of every poor family who embrace change. In their pursuit of a happy life in a new age, the words life and happiness are being redefined.